Hey guys, Nicole from Bake to Jour, and today's video is all about getting started with your sourdough. I'm going to be sharing with you the easiest way to get started on your sourdough journey, as well as how to tell when your starter is ready to power an entire loaf. Let's get started. Where to start with your starter is what I was asking myself over and over again, and I want to make it so simple that you don't have any questions about it. So there's so much sourdough content out there these days. We are going to make it as easy as possible, and we're going to do that by buying our own starter. A matured starter, you can either buy an active starter or a dehydrated starter. And if you're asking yourself, what is a starter? The starter is a culture of wild yeasts and bacteria and acid that is going to leaven your entire bread. So you don't have to use any commercial yeast. King Arthur has active starters that you can buy. You just have to make sure that your shipping is like 3 to 5 days. Up here in Anchorage, it was gonna take way too long, so I couldn't get an active starter. But you can also check local bakeries, and they might have starters that they share with the community for a purchase, of course. Or there are some companies that sell dehydrated starter, and that is what I got. Frontiersman sourdough, and it just takes all the guessing work out of getting an active, matured sourdough starter. So if you choose to do this route of either purchasing an already matured sourdough starter from a local bakery or King Arthur, or getting this Frontiersman sourdough dehydrated from local shop if you're in Alaska, or you can order online at their website. Once you have these, it's so simple. You either start feeding your active starter or you hydrate your dehydrated starter, and you're not starting from complete scratch. So it only takes about 24 to 48 hours to achieve a really nice flavorful starter. So this was my Frontiersman sourdough. A few months ago, I hydrated it. It took about 48 hours to get it to a really nice active spot where it could power an entire loaf by itself. The biggest question I was asking myself once I started my sourdough starter is, how do I know when it's ready? And I just wanted to give a few tips on that as well in this video so that you can successfully make your first batch of sourdough bread. I suggest the night before you're going to bake a batch of sourdough that you give your starter a fresh feeding. So that means you're gonna discard a good amount of your starter. You can save that in the refrigerator if you want, and that could be backup starter for later if you want to revive it, or you can use lots of different recipes with those in it, like pancakes, waffles. Just the discard can make pizza. Lots of people do different things with the discard, and there's tons of recipes out there if you Google it. But you're gonna basically throw out most of your starter and feed it with fresh flour for the yeast to feed off of. So you're gonna give it fresh food to eat, basically, so that it has lots of energy to power your loaf. And I just keep it super simple and do 1 to 1 to 1. If you're seeing your sourdough starter really active, then cut down your amount of starter. Do a tablespoon of starter and then do 100 grams of each flour to water ratio. So you don't have to have a ton of your starter to power your levain, which is what we're preparing for our bread, to leaven our bread. I don't want to get you confused with the starter and the levain, because your levain then becomes your starter once you're done making your bread. But let me just say that you're prepping your starter to be the levain, which is the leavening of your bread. And then you'll have a little bit of your leavening left in here, which you keep to then feed, and it's your starter again. So these are kind of interchangeable in a way, words, but they mean different things, because the levain is your fresh, young starter that is at its peak to perform well for you to power your entire loaf. And then the byproduct of that, you have a little bit of leftover, you're gonna feed that to maintain your starter. So really quickly, ways to tell when your starter is ready to power your loaf. You're gonna see visible bubbles on the surface. It's gonna be a lot thinner than it was originally when you mixed it and had its feeding. It's gonna be elastic or kind of stretchy here. And the biggest thing I notice is it's like fluffy. You know, it's got all that carbon dioxide byproduct from the yeast feeding, and it's going to have a lot of volume, more so than when you started, and it will float. So if you put it in some water to test if it's floating, that's a good sign that your starter is ready. And never forget, smelling your starter at every stage is so important too, just to get used to how it smells. You can kind of adjust. If it's been in the fridge for a while, it's probably produced more acetic acid and it's gonna be sour, more sour. If it's been room temperature, it has that more lactic acid and it's gonna be milder. So all these things can be adjusted, and as you do your starter, you'll kind of learn about all of that. But just make sure you're observing as well, writing notes, and you'll have so much success with your sourdough starter. So this is just super quick introduction of how to tell when it's ready. The float test is my favorite and by far really eye-opening. I tried making my first loaf before it was ready, and it was this dense brick, obviously, because it wasn't ready to power a loaf, so there was no leaven, and it was not pretty, I gotta say. So definitely watch for the bubbles, the volume, some stretchiness, and of course the float test. So good luck with your first batches, you guys. I promise you, purchasing your starter from someone else that already has a mature starter is gonna help so much, and just have that flavor already there, and you don't have to throw away so much discard as you're getting it to that point. If for some reason buying or purchasing a starter from somebody else is not what you want to do, then stay tuned and I will show you how to start your starter from scratch. Let me know as you're starting your sourdough journey, your biggest questions and things that you want clarified, because there's so much content out there right now, it's easy to get overwhelmed. So hit me up in the comment section with your questions and I will address those in the next videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.